Chairman.
I recognise the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
And likewise, sir.
That's good.
Mr Chairman, I too want to pick up where my colleague David Parker left off. And looking at Part 1, 4E, the other interesting thing here, of course, is it says when formulating revenue strategy, having regard to efficiency and fairness, including the predictability and stability of tax rates. Well, again, as Mr Parker said, is this government so bereft that it needs a piece of legislation to ensure that it achieves fairness? Well, actually, it may well be that it does, given that in the so-called tax switch, we know that the top 10% of income earners got a massive 40% of that tax switch, and the bottom 20% got 2%. So maybe actually it is important that there is a clause in here that reminds this government that revenue strategy, formulating revenue strategy, should have fairness, should be predictable, should have stability of tax rates, and should be fair. I'm glad the word fairness is included in this, because nowhere in the government's tax cuts, of course, has there been any fairness. And you've got to say, in respect, and coming from Christchurch, the ludicrous, idiotic proposal that was originally in this bill, as the henchman from Epsom, Brown Bag Banks, who, as my colleague said, trebled, and his biographer's over there, Mr Goldsmith, wrote the book about the great man, Mr Banks, trebled expenditure in his time as Mayor of Auckland City. Yet comes to this House trying to gain some credibility before his problem with .com and demands a spending cap, which is then torpedoed by the other sort of termite-ridden leg of the stool, Mr Dunn, of course has no credibility either, who actually, to be fair to him, realised that that was a load of bunkum and completely unworkable. You know, we had a thing called an earthquake in Christchurch. You have a spending cap, what happens there with a natural disaster? But it just shows that this government is reliant on two rotten piles, sir, in the form of Mr Banks and the form of Mr Dunn. And they pie them off like sort of Tweedledum and Tweedledummer, one off against each other, to try and navigate through what they need. This, sir, is simply a political pamphlet. If a government needs a piece of legislation that says it is to ensure that the Crown's resources are managed effectively and efficiently, if they really need a piece of legislation to tell them to do that, then something's wrong. But as I say, I am pleased that the word fairness is in 4E, because those tax cuts were not fair. The GST that they put up that they said they wouldn't wasn't fair to people. So it is good that at least one clause pulls on the small pangs of conscience that one or two of these government members may have from time to time as they put through their policies, which, as we know, benefit the top end of the street, the Parnellites, Mr Goldsmith's people, of course. 40%, 10%, the top 10% getting 40% of the tax cuts. Well, I don't know. Will that contravene this law that talks about fairness? Because, of course, they define fairness as that, where the bottom 20% get 2%. It's utterly meaningless. If they don't know what fairness is and inequity is, then they shouldn't be there. But the top end, the one from the North Shore, the one from Epsom, Banks's biographer, they think that's
Order.
They think, I said Banks's biographer. They think that is fair. I don't know what you thought I said, sir. I wouldn't go that low. Banks's biographer, sir, they think that is fair. They think that is fair in a taxation sense. So really, this is another John Banks special. This is political piffle. This is like writing down, I should be a nice person. I should make sure I send Mum a birthday card and a Mother's Day card. I need to be reminded of these basic human things. This is piffle. This is political posturing, and even Mr Goldsmith should be ashamed of this sort of stuff. We are wasting Parliament's time on this. If that member and that minister needs a piece of legislation to say they should manage the Crown accounts effectively and efficiently, then they've got a problem. They've got an absolute serious problem. Now, it would be nice if they did manage them effectively and efficiently as we did when we had 9 years' worth of surpluses and zero Crown debt. Zero Crown debt, net Crown debt, zero. Now that's called managing effectively and efficiently, and we didn't need a piece of paper, as the Minister scowls at me, we didn't need a piece of paper that said, Dr Cullen, you need to manage the Crown accounts effectively and efficiently. We just did it because it's the right thing to do, Mr Speaker. Oh, Goldfinger. We sucked him out of the pack.
I call the honourable member Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I note my colleague Mr. Codgrove's reference to my biography. He, of course, is jealous that